Hey folks, welcome back to another vlog. This is Gravity Falls Season 2, Episode 13, Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons. This was a really fun one. Dipper and Ford have been paralleled a few times since Ford was introduced, and in some ways even before he was introduced, like with that one story with the mind-enhancing machine and waddles and so forth. Sort of paralleling them there too. A few other ways, like, the fact that Dipper's been the one associated with the journals and searching for the author and so on. So it makes sense to give them an episode together, that the next priority after, now we've introduced Ford, the best way to learn about a character is to pair them up with another character who is more established. And so now that we've had the Stan and Ford episode, Stan being the obvious first person to pair Ford with, Dipper's the next obvious. So it makes sense to move to him. So this was a fun way of doing that. They've done video game parodies, they've done that kind of thing. It makes sense to do a Dungeons & Dragons parody. It's very much within the cultural milieu that they're playing with. In particular, that kind of Twin Peaks, late 80s, early 90s, vaguely occultish, X-Files-ish, that whole milieu draws a lot from Dungeons & Dragons in indirect ways. It draws a lot from the sort of culture around that, in the sense that, like, the pop occult thing before that was the Dungeons & Dragons panic, the satanic panic of the early and mid-80s. And Dungeons & Dragons was woven into that a lot. More specifically, pop cultural depictions of Dungeons & Dragons that bore very little relation to the actual game. Although it's the wrong time period, if you've ever seen Chick Tract Dark Dungeons, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Dungeons & Dragons is this, like, gateway to the occult. And kind of the successor to that in terms of being how pop culture approached the occult was stuff like Twin Peaks, the X-Files, that kind of thing, which Gravity Falls is, as I was saying, drawing on. So it makes sense for them to go back to that. It's also, an obvious nerd hobby, so it makes sense as something that Dipper would do, and Ford would be in the right age range for the original Dungeons & Dragons. If this show is 2017, then to be the same age as, a 15-year-old's grandparents, or a 12-year-old's grandparents, would put you around college age or just out of it in the 70s when Dungeons & Dragons became a thing. And somebody who was very nerdy would likely, have been in that, fantasy, Lord of the Rings, wargaming community from which Dungeons & Dragons emerged. So it's a logical thing for Ford to have been into, it's a logical thing for Dipper to be into. This is a little on the young side, but he's pretty precocious in that way, so we'll let it pass. So yeah, it makes sense, and it also makes sense as something which Mabel and Grunkle Stan would reject for different reasons. But it makes sense that they both reject it. Grunkle Stan, Grunkle Stan likes to win. He's a cheater. He's a gambler. He's someone who likes winning. And there's no winner in Dungeons & Dragons, not really. Mabel, by contrast, like, she loves that kind of imaginative play, but Dungeons & Dragons is a little too rulesy for her, and it's a little too constrained, and it's not the kind of thing she likes to imagine. Yeah, it's got the unicorn and the hot elf, but the, like, epic, violent adventure is not really the kind of thing that she daydreams about. That's more Dipper. So it makes sense as something they'd reject, but it also makes sense as something they'd be good at. To it, Grunkle cheating is beautiful. I love it. You know, it's. I knew he had to be cheating to get that 38. I didn't know how. The reveal for that was very clever. The setup for it, where he pops the gum at the beginning of the game, very well done. I felt like Mabel could maybe be a little bit more imaginative. Like, the exploding cupcake bomb things were very Mabel. The flaming swords, not so much. The centaur, or whatever she called it, that was great. I loved the way it, like, rolled so that both could get onto it. But yeah, the first couple of things she came up with, the shield and the flaming sword, were disappointing. Was the shield her or Stan? I don't remember. Either way, I remember being disappointed in the swords. Otherwise, I just kind of like the depiction of it as a bonding activity, because that's really what it is. It's not about spreadsheets and, you know, knowing the intricacies of super detailed rules. Frankly, most gaming groups that I've been in are very impatient with people who are too rulesy. It's really there for the social aspect of it, the shared element of it. It's something that a group of friends can experience together cooperatively, but that at the same time has an element of uncertainty and surprise. There's not a lot of activities which have that. Most games are competitive. Most non-competitive things we have are, what's the word I'm looking for, are passive. You know, you can all sit and watch a movie together, but that's not really engaging each other. You can play a competitive game, but then, you know, you're opposed to each other. You're not working together towards something. And that can be a real bonding experience. You know, and it's also like you're engaging in something creative together, because, as I mentioned, there's a lot of imagination that goes into it. Not quite the way they depict it in the show, but fine, whatever. It is still, you know, imaginative play. And so it does form like a really solid bonding experiences. Like, some of my best memories of high school were, you know, playing role-playing games with friends. Usually not Dungeons & Dragons, though we did do that a couple of times and have fun with it. Usually other games, but that general genre of game. You know, it's just something, you know, you hang out and have chips and snacks and sodas and whatever, and just have an evening of it. And unlike an evening of, like, Risk or Diplomacy or competitive video games, nobody comes out wanting to murder anybody else, usually. Speaking of which, if you ever want to completely destroy all your friendships, play Diplomacy. It is a very fun game that will make you hate all of your friends. I highly recommend it. If you've got, like, 12 hours to spare, because it is not a fast game. But yeah, it was a good ep. It was, you know, good to see these two characters bonding. I'll be interested to see if they do more of it. Like, I feel like the last kind of major relationship that needs to be explored now, with the addition of Ford, is Ford and Mabel. So I'm hoping we get that soon. Last thing I wanted to comment on is the very obvious, but I always like this sort of thing, the use of Ducktective to mirror and mock the show. You know, the way everybody was disappointed that the reveal was the twin brother, Seuss had seen it coming. You know, obviously that's referring both to, the evil twin thing that shows pull, as well as like the Moriarty to Detectives Sherlock Holmes, and the hints in Sherlock specifically, if I remember right. It's been a long time since I watched it, and I never got much past the first season. I know I finished the first season. I don't think I finished the second. But if I remember correctly, they did drop some hints early on that Mycroft I might be confusing this with another Sherlock adaptation, but I think they dropped some hints early on that Mycroft might be Moriarty. And turned out not to be the case, but might also be a reference to that because Mycroft is Holmes' older brother. Regardless, it's, even if he's not literally Sherlock Holmes' brother, Moriarty is the evil twin, the identical except for morality character. Right down to them both being masters of disguise, so who even knows what they look like. That said, that pretty much sums it up, I think. I liked that parallel. I liked that they were all super disappointed in that because, of course, again, the reveal that it was the twin brother all along is exactly what happened a couple episodes ago. Good stuff. Good episode. Looking forward to watching more. Bye!